Proclaim the name of YAHUAH. Seek his face and turn from your wicked ways, and know that there is no other name but YAHUAH, Yahusha, Yah, who saves. I will be reading Luke 7 and then in Psalms. And when he completed all his words in the hearing of the people, he went into Kepher Nahum, that is a village of comfort. And a certain captain's servant who was valuable to him was sick and about to die. And hearing about Yahusha, he sent elders of Yehudim to him, asking him to come and heal the servant. And when they came to Yahusha, they begged him earnestly, saying, "He is worthy for you to grant this to him, for he loves our nation and has built the congregation, the assembly house for us." So Yahusha, that's meaning not a building, it's meaning the body, the assembly. So Yahusha went with them. However, he was not far from the house when the captain sent friends to him. Congregation means assembly, means the body. That's what I meant. So Yahushua went with them. However, he was not far from the house when the captain sent friends to him, saying to him, "Master, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy that you should come under my roof. For this reason, I did not even think myself worthy to come to you, but say a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I too am a man appointed under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." And when Yahusha heard this, he marveled at him and turned around and said to the crowds that follow him, "I say to you, not even in Yesharel," that means yes, Israel. Yesharel, have I found such great belief? And those who are sent returning to the house found the servant who had been sick in good health. And it came to be that the next day that he went into a city called Naam, and many of his Talmudim peoples went with him, and a large crowd. And seeing as he sat near the gate of the city, a dead man was being carried out, and the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a large crowd from the city was with her. And when the messenger saw her, he said he had, and when the master saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." And coming near, he touched the bier, and those bearing it stood still. He touched the bier, and those bearing it stood still. And he said, "Young men, I say to you, arise." And he who has died sat up. And he who has died sat up and began to speak. And he gave him to his mother. And fear seized all, and they praised Elohim, saying, "A great prophet has been raised up amongst us, and Elohim has visited his people." And this news about him went out into all Yehudah and all the neighborhood, and the peoples of Yochanan reported to him about all this. And Yochanan, calling 2 of his peoples near, sent to Yahusha, saying, "Are you the coming one, or should we look for another?" And coming to him, the men said, "Yochanan, the mercer, has sent us to you, saying, 'Are you the coming one, or should we look for another?'" And in the same hour he healed many of diseases and afflictions and wicked ruachs, and he gave sight to many blind ones. And Yahusha answering and said to them, "Go, report to Yochanan what you have seen and heard. Blind receive sight, lame walk, lepers cleanse, deaf hear, dead arise. The Besorah is brought to the poor, and blessed is he who shall not stumble in me." And when the messenger of YAHUAH, and when the messengers of Yochanan had left, he began to speak to the crowds concerning Yochanan. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? But what did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft garments? Look, those who are splendidly dressed and living luxurious are in the houses of sovereigns. But what did you go out to see?" This is just amazing, because a sister was just talking about how the Pharisees and how people expect the Father to be of a king with fine clothing, horses, a kingdom, and all this stuff. When to come like that on the earth. That he didn't come to be served. Yes, to be served, but not to be served to a point. He came to serve us because that is love. We are to love our brethren by serving our brethren. And that's what he came to show us, is how to love, respect, and serve one another without doubts, without stumbling blocks. So I want to go back to we're in Luke 7 verse 25. So I want to go back in Isaiah. Hold on here. So in Isaiah 53, that verse right there, I want to read Isaiah 53 because it explains your king, who has believed our report, and to whom was the arm of YAHUAH revealed. For he grew up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or splendor that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should desire him. Despised and rejected by men, a man of pains and knowing sickness, and as one from whom the face is hidden, being despised, and we did not consider him. Truly, he has borne our sickness. He took the bearing of our sickness and carried our pains. Yet we rejected him, struck him, smitten by Elohim, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our crookedness. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. We all like sheep went astray. Each one of us has turned to his own ways. Yahuwah has laid on him the crookedness of us all. He has oppressed and he was afflicted, but he did not open his mouth. He was led as a lamb to slaughter, and as a sheep before his seeders is silent, but he did not open his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment. And as for his generation, who considered that he shall be cut off from the land of the living, for the transgression of my people he was stricken, and he was appointed a grave with the wrong and with the rich at his death, because he had done no evil, no violence, nor was deceit in his mouth. But Yahuwah was pleased to crush him, but he laid sickness on him, that when he made himself an offering for guilt, he would see a seed, he would prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahuwah prospered in his hand. He would see the results of the suffering of his life and be satisfied. Through his knowledge, my righteous servant makes many righteous, and he bears their crookedness. Therefore, I gave him a portion among the great, and he divides the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his being to death, and he was counted with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Wow. Let me see how that lines up with this chapter. Chapter 7, Luke. But what did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft garments? Look, those who are splendidly dressed and living luxuriously are in the houses of sovereigns. But what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yeah, I say to you, and more than a prophet. This is he concerning whom it has been written, see, I send my messenger before your face, who shall prepare your way before you. For I say to you, among those born of women, there is not a greater prophet than Yochanan, than Mercer. We all want prophets and, evangelists, all of them to be this beautified. Not just beautified in clothes, in makeup or jewelry or fancy shoes. You want them to be beautified in everything with, houses, college degrees, successful, speaking right. But you need to know is that Yahuwah did not come for the rich. He did not come for the wealthy. He did not come for those who already, have it all. He came for the sinners, the poor. He came for the sick, not the healthy. Get in your word and understand Yahuwah. He knows who his people is. He chose everyone before you came into your mother's womb. But we have defiled that choice, that gift given to us. We need to remember. We need to remember him. Ask him. Ask him to help you to remember who you are and who he is. If you're listening to people in the church and not reading your word for yourself and not praying for yourself, you're going to continuously be one of those sheeps that went astray. He is looking for you. He is calling for you, but you are not listening. Open up your ears, your heart, your belly, yes, your innermost gut, and pray and seek him. Seek his face and turn from your wicked ways and know that Yah is sovereign. Yah is forevermore kind and just. He multiplies everything. He makes all things good. You just turn to him. Do not fear. Everything that you have, merchants, every single piece of jewelry, clothing, toys in your garages, toys in your attics, your basements, everything that you have, one day, when the Father returns, it's all going to burn. 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 Nothing will be left. Get with YAHUAH, because you don't want to be in that fire. You don't want to be in that pit of abyss. You don't want to be there. Get with YAHUAH and understand his will. Not your will, but his will be done. We're at 28, chapter 7 of Luke 28. For I say to you, among those born of women, there is not a greater prophet than YAHUAH the immerser, but he who is least in the reign of YAHUAH is greater than he. And all the people, even the tax collectors, when they heard, declared Elohim righteous, having been immersed with the immersion of YAHUAH. But the what do you call it? Pharisees. Praise y'all. But the Pharisees and those learned in the Torah rejected the counsel of Elohim, of YAHUAH, for themselves. When you reject the word, understand this. Anybody that's in religion, you need to understand this. You need to understand, first, Paul. Every single person gets Paul's writing wrong. You need to understand, Paul never went against Torah. Paul was a Pharisee, and he knew that Torah was important. So if he went against Torah and saying things were done away with, okay, he would never have went to the third heaven. Understand that. He would never went to where YAHUAH was. Okay? understand that. And understand that every single disciple in the scripture are talking about Torah. What is Torah? Torah is the beginning of the word. Nowhere in the back of the word did any disciple spill out any word against the Torah, the word in the front of the Bible, of your scriptures. So I ask you all to go back and to read 1 John and to understand what 1 John is saying. He said, nothing that I tell you is new. Everything is of old that you knew from the beginning. Meaning that your fathers knew from the beginning. All the way to your father, Abraham, Yishak, that's Isaiah, Isaac, and Jacob, Jacob. Understand. So please get in your word and know that Yahushua says in John 14 that these are not my words, but the Father who sent me. He has said, they're not my words. None of this about following the 10 Commandments. If you are not following all the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments is from 1 to 10. Not 1, not 6, 7, and 8, and 9. Because that's what most people follow. That's in religion, in churches, or in something else. You have to follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Respect the Father who created you, because He laid His life down for you. He made you and formed you. He gave you breath of life. His breath is within your lungs that you breathe every day, every second of the day. And guess what? His lungs are within the palm of His hand. And guess what? He chooses to keep, if you are still here, He chose to continuously allow that you to be still here on this earth, because He's giving you that chance to return back to Him. Return back to Him and know that He is the one that made heaven and earth. All the seas, all the trees, all the bees, all the flowers, all the critters, all the beasts, everything. He planned all this, not us. So, I will do part 2 tomorrow. I said I was going to read Psalms, but I'll do part 2 and I'll read Psalms tomorrow. It's already been long. Shalom. Shalom, and know that Yah is sovereign. and there is no other name but his name. Love YAHUAH.